This Paul Ricard Track Guide is brought to you by Celtic Tuning Midrand. Disclaimer time: this might not get you the fastest hot lap, but what it will do is give you some insights of how I would approach this track. I'm going to give you some braking points, turning points, exit points, as well as some of the track limits you're able to use to your advantage. So let's get into it. So approaching the start finish line, we start moving over to the right hand side. Be careful here, this is where the pit exit is, so you just need to be a little bit cautious. So I'm going to want to be braking at that 100 meter board, and I'm going to be using the 50 and the curb on the right hand side as my turning point. I'm now going to go down into second gear, and I want to aim as close to that yellow pylon as possible, but just stay off the little rumbles on the inside, as that they will unsettle you. I've now short shifted into third gear. I've applied full throttle and now aiming for this inside curb on the right. Try not get too high up there because the car seems to just get a little bit floaty, but now I'm aiming for the outside, making sure I don't touch the white flaps on the outside to stay within track limits. I run my car up on the curbs here on the outside, looking for the 100. So by the time I get to the dark patch, I'm on full braking, using the 50 mark as my next turning point. So starting to turn in, looking for the apex on the inside. There is little rumbles there, just be careful of those. I add a little bit of throttle and I'm aiming for the next curb. The car kind of just slots into this little groove, and the car feels like it's being pulled around the corner here. So use that to your advantage. As I apply the accelerator, I'm looking at the grandstand for the little grey stripe, second one to the left. So as the grey block comes into sight, there it is, I'm now off the accelerator. I'm now going to be applying the brakes and aiming for that inside curb. As the car settles, can start applying that accelerator. Went in a little bit too hot, so saw another little dab of the brakes there. Power on the way out, and I can use this runoff on the left hand side. So turn 6 is probably one of the most important corners, because it's going to be about how much speed you carry through it to get you onto that back straight. The yellow curb is going to be where I'm going to lift off, turn the car in and start aiming for the inside here. All I'm going to be doing is, I'm still on throttle, I'm going to lift, get the car just to touch that curb. Then once I've touched the curb, start applying that throttle, just being cautious to not let the car over rotate, because when it's sliding, you're going to start losing that exit speed. Then you can just tighten up to the right hand side, and once I get that car straight up, I'm really going to start looking to the left and then accelerate through, touching the curbs on both sides. Then down the back straight, which is more than 1.5 kilometers. Use this time effectively, make yourself a sandwich, write a thesis, study your MBA, and get ready for that braking zone. Just as we hit that 100 meter mark, I'm going to be braking, gearing down to 5th, looking for the 50 board. That is my turning point. As I've turned in now on the accelerator and trying to get as close to the inside curb as possible, just caution that little pylon on the inside. But now use the track on the outside. You can go quite wide here. Just make sure you come back onto the track before the white markers, because those there are your track limits. So turn 9 is a monster on its own, and I use the second last tree as my braking point. I want to be aiming where that dark patch is, but riding the curb on the inside. You can see going down the gears, I'm going to go on into third, just clipping the curb now on the inside. This corner comes at you very quickly, and it's all about the feel. I'm going to wait till I get past the grandstand, drop down into second gear. This is going to help slow the car down, but also get it turned in. Just before I start getting onto the power, I'm going to go into third gear. I am going to miss the apex just a little bit here, but don't get too close up on that curb, because the car does get a little washy on the exit. Okay, here at turn 10, there's quite a few things happening. I'm using the 505 games board as my braking point, as well as the black board in front of me to make sure I've got the car going in the right direction. But you'll also see on the right hand side, there's a little runoff there, that little blue piece now. I'm now brake the car, that is now my turning point. And I want to try to get as close to this inside curb as possible. And every time I've ridden this curb, I just find that the car gets very, very loose on the rear. But as I'm approaching the curb, you can see just holding throttle, and as I go past it, I now accelerate and I'm aiming for the exit. Again, careful of the white and red markers on the outside, and those are your track limits. So turns 11, 12 and 13 are a sequence of craziness in themselves. I'm looking at the end of the white roof on the right hand side. That is going to be my braking point. I'm now going to be braking in a straight line at the blackboard, and as I go past the white marker here on the left hand side, I start coming off the brakes from a trail braking point of view, turn the car in a little bit more. I'm now going to ride the throttle just a little bit, going wider as an entry, let this car tighten up now, take a lot of this curb on the inside, and this is where we now want to get the car straightened as soon as possible, because I'm looking for another braking point. That little white line on the left hand side, that is where I'm now braking. I want to get this car down into first gear. I'm going to start aiming for the inside curb. You can take quite a bit of curb here, but just remember, the more curb that you're taking, you are unsettling the rear a bit, but the more track you can use, the better. Again, just cautious on the exit here. The little white markers with the red lines, those are your track limits. And that is the lap, and I managed to do a 1:55.3. Now let's see it come together in one perfect sequence. So I hope this Paul Ricard Track guide brought to you by a Celtic Tuning Midrand has brought some insights, and it helps you for your race on a Wednesday night for round number 3 of the VA Auto Repairs Season 5. Thanks for watching. Yos.